Welcome to Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters podcast. And now your host, Dave Weichert.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters podcast. Tonight we have a very interesting guest. We're going to be discussing Dogman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids. Before I introduce my guest and bring him in, I just want to get a couple things out of the way. I learned something today. I guess I haven't been in the news for the last couple days or paying attention to it, but I'll tell you what, my thoughts and my heart, it goes out to the family and friends and and those that are affected by these 5 people that are down 13,000 feet in a sub. I'll tell you, it's a tragedy. Well, all we can do is all come together, say a prayer, and hope for the best. And I hope they're rescued. So I also want to give a quick shout out to Dave and Katie. And I want to give a quick shout out, say hi to Barry and Rich. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest in. Just bear with me. Brian, how are you, sir? Brian?
Hi.
Oh,
Can
there
you hear
you are. Yeah, I can hear you now. I couldn't hear you there for a second.
Hey, Dave.
And,
Thanks for having me on, man.
You turned purple.
I know, I did. I turned some lights off in my office and stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let me just, folks, our guest tonight is Mr. Brian. If I say your last name wrong, I'll let you.
It's okay.
Mr. Brian Terrell. He is the founder of the Red Dirt Cryptid Investigation Team. And if you look down below at the ticker, there's some other information on him as well. So, Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a teacher. I'm an educator, and I grew up in Oklahoma. I live in Enid, Oklahoma, to be specific. And I try to be fairly normal until the weekend rolls around, and then I go out into the woods and I look for cryptids, Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever else people are reaching out to me about. And I make reports and I document them and I put them out there for the public to be able to see so that the public can have access to it. And try to maintain a little website and a YouTube page where we go out and people can go with us and go to some of the places that we go to, kind of check it out and see what it's like. Most of our research is done in Oklahoma and southern Kansas, but every once in a while we venture out a little bit further. So we try to keep everything budget friendly. You know, I am a teacher, so you gotta live within your means. So
There you go. So, what inspired you to become a research and a field investigator for cryptids?
well, my interest in the subject started, I would say, probably about the time I was about 30 or 35. I don't remember exactly, and it was kind of a funny thing. I had found a footprint whenever I was a kid growing up, and I didn't know what it was at the time. And I just I guess I always remembered it, but then I was watching a Bigfoot movie, and they showed a picture of this Bigfoot print with 3 toes.
Hmm.
You know, those footprints that everybody says is fake. And but anyway, I found one whenever I was a kid down at our family farm, and you know, it was just like bam. You know, it just kind of hit me. It's like that's what was down there. You know, and then the more and more I got to thinking about it, the more everything kind of started coming back, and I realized, well, that explains this, and all the other weird things that was going on when I was a kid. It explained why there was nights when the cattle would not leave the corral and they would sit out there and bawl all night long. It explained the eyes that I saw in the corral one night. It explained, you know, what it was that kept leaving the granary door unlocked and open. You know, a lot of the little things. It all kind of it made a lot of sense. And after that, I'd been really interested in that. And it wasn't long after that that a Bigfoot report actually fell in my lap. I kind of stumbled into it, and I just found it to be very, very fascinating. And I didn't have any idea what I was doing, but I went out and kind of did like my own little investigation at the time. I had no training, no background in it whatsoever. I was just kind of nosing around, you know, playing Scooby Doo, trying to figure out if what they said had happened really happened. And I think that's kind of what got me started. I was looking for Bigfoot off and on for many, many years, and finally, you know, I found the internet, and I decided that I needed to create a platform. It started out about Northwest Oklahoma, and quickly realized that I needed to spread out a little bit more. So I covered a little bit more area, but I just wanted a place where people in Oklahoma could go and report their reports, and somebody would document them, and somebody would listen to them, you know. And as you know, it's, you know, finding somebody that'll actually listen to you about this stuff and not ridicule you. That's not an easy task. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Did I just thought I heard myself echo?
Now you sound pretty good to me.
Guess not.
You might ask the people.
Yeah, let me just set something up here. Go back in and
Hi, Sherry.
uh, let's see where. Here we go.
Hey, Harold.
Hello, Sherry. Jolie. Okay, got that working. All right. So, your first, well, yeah, your first encounter was in 2007, I believe.
Depends on with what you're talking
Okay,
about.
that would be Dogman.
Yes, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, and to be quite honest, I don't remember exactly, you know, what year, what date it was at the time.
Right.
I had no idea what I was looking at, and it was just kind of a mystery to me. I mean, I didn't run home and get the calendar out and document it. So it was kind of just one of those things. But as near as I can tell, it was 2007. And if I had to guess, I would say it was sometime in the winter.
In the winter.
Because I do remember that the grass was tall, but it was dead. So I do remember that part. So, but
Okay.
yeah, that was a life changing experience, you know.
Mhm.
And once you see something like that, you kind of take it and you put it in a box. I'd never heard of a dog man. I didn't know what it was, and so my brother and I, um, we were just kind of calling it the wolf dog. We didn't know what else to call it, and I actually saw the creature. My brother never saw it, but he had found some sign that they'd been around, and we didn't have any. idea. I mean, at the time, I thought that we'd seen some type of wolf type dog that was afflicted by gigantism, you know,
Right.
and I knew that humans could get that, and that's just the only box that I had that I could put it in it was a wolf type dog with gigantism. Although, I couldn't imagine the farmers out there not putting a few bullet holes in it,
Oh yeah.
'cause that's what they do with they got livestock to protect. So
Hmm.
I can tell you this: there's not a rancher anywhere in Oklahoma that would purchase a wolf type dog for home protection or a pet or whatever. I mean, they're too sketchy. You can't get the wild out of them, and livestock comes first. But yeah, I saw that thing broad daylight, and I knew at the time I was looking at something odd. But the people that have gigantism, they're built funny too. They don't have the same proportions that a human would have. And so for a long time I just kind of, figured that this, and at the time I remember thinking, oh, that dog will die soon. I mean, it's obviously full grown, and it's probably not going to live much longer because a lot of people with gigantism, they don't really live to be an old man or an old woman.
Right.
So that was kind of the box that I kind of put it in at the time. And it was pretty interesting, though. He looked very wolfish, very dark black. He was really shaggy, and he had a really broad chest. That was one of the things that really stuck out with me, was that he was kind of facing me about at a 45-degree angle. He was kind of cocked towards me, and I could see how broad his chest was, and he was really big. Um, he was probably about the size of a, you know, 3/4 grown cow, and he was definitely a big beast. And he looked like he was having a wonderful day up until the time he realized that I was looking at him. And at that point, he got a disgusted look on his face, and he ran away. And I wish, I wish I'd been paying more attention. I wish that I would have kept looking at him, because I turned to look at the road for a minute, and then I turned back, and he was running away at that point. Never saw him get up on all full on bipedally run.
Hmm.
Never saw the front paws or anything. Um, in a way, I'm kind of glad. I'd probably crap myself if I saw him get up and run away on two legs. I mean, I don't know what kind of box I would have put it in then, and I would say because of that, I don't carry a lot of the PTSD that a lot of people end up with, because I didn't actually see him walking bipedally, and I was able to, in my mind, put him in a comfortable box and just move on with my life for a long time. And it wasn't until many years later, I want to say it was 2017 or 2018, that I realized what I'd seen. So I sat on this whole thing for a decade, just not having a clue what I'd seen.
Okay. You had a second encounter, uh, basically the same thing in 2008. Would you say the second one was more frightening than the first one, or the second one?
Well, the second one was smaller, and it looked different. I would say that at the time, well, the first one, when I saw it, I was in a vehicle, of course, and I'd never even got out of the vehicle. So I'd hate to say that I got scared. I wouldn't say I was scared, but I did have this feeling of dread, because I remember I got up to the top of the hill, and I was thinking, about the basically the overall consequences of something like that running around in the woods out there. And then I thought about my brother who likes to hunt coons at night with dogs, and now that scared me. I didn't like the idea of him running around out there at night with that thing running around. And that ended up, um, you know, getting a phone call in order. But I had to get my story straight, and I'll be honest. At the time, I didn't tell my brother the whole story. I mean, if I'd have told him, that I just, by the way, I just saw a wolf that was the size of a cow. I think he probably would have just laughed at me like most brothers do, and I probably would have never heard the end of that. So I kind of underestimated how large it was, in order to get him to take it more seriously and take more precaution. Oh, hey, Eric. But that was a while ago. Uh-oh, who's buffering, me or you?
I think that was okay. Not sure who that is. I don't have a name to go with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's that happens. I've had that happen to me before too when I was trying to log into shows.
yeah.
So,
I'm not sure. Whoops. Let me
there he is.
get that down. Okay. All right. But yeah, in the past few weeks, I've had some issues with. I got to get to the bottom of it. I'm not sure if it's Facebook blocking the name, or I had somebody actually tell me that a Facebook user has to give Restream permission. So I'm going to look into that a little further and see what's what.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I did add, um, my YouTube channel onto this broadcast. So you are streaming live on Red Dirt Cryptid Investigations YouTube
Oh,
page.
thank you.
I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
It might. Yeah, it might. Because it says next to the name, it says paired. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at the people in the chat room, I think I know Sherry and Eric and probably Harold found it. You can see there's a YouTube icon next to their names.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, back to what you were saying. The second time I saw one, I guess you could say I was dumb enough to get out of my vehicle and start walking over to the edge of the road to try to see if I could see it again. And at the time, it hit me. It's like, this is kind of stupid for you to be outside of your vehicle without a gun, because that thing was pretty big. It wasn't as big as the first one I saw, but it was definitely big enough to put a hurting on me. And so that's when I kind of got heebie-jeebies at that point. And because I had a feeling that it was right there somewhere. I just couldn't see it. And so I went and got back in my van. And, once you're inside your vehicle, you feel a hell of a lot safer. So,
Oh yeah.
so
Speaking of guns, when you go out in the woods, are you armed or unarmed?
almost always, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes if I'm just hanging around and, like right next to my vehicle, I may not have it. But most of the time I'm carrying a 10 millimeter.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to go out in the woods and not be armed or have somebody with me that is armed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say? I hope I'm not getting a cold. Excuse me. What would you say has been your most frightening encounter?
Well, that would have been a situation where I was with one of the guys on my team, Micah Doan, and then another one, Jeff Hatfield. And we were down in southeastern Oklahoma, north of a little place called, yeah, carry the big bore.
Big
Yeah,
boar, yeah.
my rounds are even custom made.
There
So,
we go.
but anyway, we were down north of Broken Bow Lake, and I was camping in a hammock. This was probably 2.5 years ago now. Time flies. And but anyway, I was camping in a hammock with a tarp over it, down in the national forest, and we had something come into camp, and there was two of them, and they were circling around the camp. They were making some low vocalizations and some mouth pops, and they were going around getting into stuff, and one of them tried to approach me in my hammock, and it got within what I'm going to guess was about 15 feet from my hammock, and I couldn't see him because he was approaching at the point where the tarp was blocking him, and he ended up kind of ghosting himself because I assume it was a he. I mean, it ghosted itself by stepping on a stick, and the stick broke. And when it did that, it had a very human response. Its response was, ugh. I mean, you could just tell it was, I guess that noise that it makes was, I guess, Bigfoot language for SHI. Yeah. So anyway, at that point, I set the land speed record for a fat boy getting out of a hammock. And I came out and was yelling and screaming and threatening to shoot it and everything else, but it ran off. And when it ran off, I actually heard it running off, and you could tell it was bipedal, and you could tell that it was not a hoofed animal. And when an animal has a hoof and it runs, you can hear it makes an audible difference than a padded foot creature. So, but anyway, it was scared the bejeebers out of me, and we ended up going back to bed about 30 minutes later, and they came back, believe it or not, and they continued. They started doing what they were doing previously. They were just being a little bit more quiet about it, and they continued to do that till about 45 minutes till daylight, and then they left and sounded like they headed north. So that, I ain't gonna lie, that scared the crap out of me. I'd been camping out of a hammock for 15 plus years, and ever since then I have struggled to sleep in a hammock all night long. I just lay in the hammock and think about that night. So since then I sleep in my vehicle, and but as we found out, as Eric and I found out with Coleman not too terribly long ago, they can scare the crap out of you in your car too. So that was another frightening moment. So, but it's pretty sad when you're too scared to turn around and look. So,
Yeah, really.
yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I've been there.
You end up having a lot of scary moments, but clarity really comes around when you realize, hey, I was this close to this thing. If it would have wanted to have hurt me or kill me, it could have, and it passed. I mean, once you have two or three encounters like that, let alone realizing that you grew up with them down on the family farm and you were running around down there as a kid all by yourself. I mean, you realize that if they wanted you, they could have had you a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're in their territory, and the truth is, they own us when we're out there.
Oh yeah. Very elusive and very mysterious. Back in the late '80s, I worked on a farm for the whole summer. Um, and back then I was just reading books and watching what shows I could watch on TV and stuff like that. But the guy I was working for on a farm, he didn't tell me when he hired me that he had a Bigfoot problem on the property. So when myself and my friend arrived, we started having these experiences where we were being hit with rocks while we would sit up on the deck that wrapped around the house on the farm.
Yeah.
And there was a number of things that were tossed at us up on the deck. and my buddy got hit in the back of the neck with a rock, and it hurt so bad that he yelled. And the owner came out of the house, and he was like, "Are they bothering you?" And my buddy looks at him and goes, "Who?" He goes, "I'm getting hit with rocks," but I'm sitting there laughing because I pretty much figured it out what was going on, but I kept looking over and I didn't see nothing. And I'll tell you what, the whole summer that we stayed there and worked, not one time did we get to see it. You could
Mm,
see trees swaying. You could see brush like it was being pulled apart. Um,
mm,
brush shaking and stuff like that. You could hear them screaming and yelling at night. But back then I wasn't really into it like I am today. And like I said, we stayed there the whole summer, and not one time did we get to see it. I
right.
smelled it, I heard it, I felt the rocks and the other things that were tossed at us, and
Hmm.
it just got to him. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, he would argue with his wife because he would go in the house and get a gun, a shotgun. He would come out and boom and shoot into the air and scare them off. And they were going in his barn and getting into everything and just destroying stuff and leaving the nastiest smells. And yeah, so but later in years, I thought about it and I just kept thinking about it. I'm like, watch when I die, this thing's going to walk up to me and going to say, "Hey, I know you. I'm the guy that was throwing rocks at you." you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, um, I've never seen a Sasquatch. Never. Boots on the ground. I've had experiences where I know they were around. I've seen eye shine, but I've never physically seen a Bigfoot. So,
Hmm.
um,
Very few people get what I would call a good look at them,
mhm.
but they do. I don't think they have a problem letting us know they're around.
Oh yeah.
And usually I think it's to inspire us to leave, but they let us know. They're not afraid of us at all.
Oh
And
no, no.
so if you as long as you can take a hint, you know, um, I guess some people are oblivious to it. Those are probably the people that you have to they have to step out and yell at. So,
Have
hey,
you ever
Pyro.
heard? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I just saw the fella I know there, Pyro.
Okay. I was going to ask you if you've ever heard them in the woods with that. I had a woman explain to me that when she first moved onto her property in Colorado, she said it sounded like Chinese people out in the woods, gibberish. Have you ever heard that?
The samurai chatter. No,
Okay.
I've heard the mouth pops, and I've heard what I would call mumblings. I
Hmm.
mean, it's like, especially that night when they came in and they scared me in my hammock. They were very softly communicating. It was kind of funny because it's like they were kind of whispering, but it was kind of mumbly.
Hmm.
Sounded, I don't know, it sounded humanish but deeper, kind of.
Okay.
And they were being very quiet with that. But then when it come time to do their mouth pops, those were pretty loud. As a matter of fact, the mouth pops are what woke me up. So I don't understand why they were. Um, yeah, there's Harold. I don't understand why they were being so quiet with their vocalizations if they were going to make that much noise with a mouth pop.
Right.
But that's just part of the mystery. I don't know, but it's pretty rare to hear them communicating. Um, there was a situation once when I was down at Hanabi, Oklahoma. and we heard some screams from far off that were definitely different. They were very deep, and they were very, very, very loud. And a couple of weeks ago, when Eric and I were out at this one undisclosed place that we're doing some research at now, we heard it was far off, and it was hard to tell, but it sounded, and this was during the daytime, and we heard this thing that just sounded like some kind of weird humanoid scream that was very deep. And I got an idea of the direction that it came from, but as far as having the audio recorder on, oh, of course not. So, but after that, I did get up and turn the thing on. But that was about 8 or 8:30 before the sun had gone down, so it was still daylight when that happened. But occasionally you will hear stuff. Um, but the samurai chatter thing, I can't say that I've ever heard anything that sounds like, what they're describing with that. I don't disbelieve it. I think it's legit. I just I've never heard it myself personally.
Right. And most of the people that I have spoken to said that when they had sightings, um, of a Bigfoot, it happened so fast. It was never for more. I think the longest one was 10, 12 seconds,
That's a long
and,
one.
and then gone. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't have a lot of times you don't have a whole lot of an opportunity. Um, it wasn't too terribly long ago, like 6 months ago. I got to see a peaker when Coleman and I were out walking through this area at Hayburn Wildlife Management Area, and I don't know why, but something told me to turn around and look the way I'd come, and I looked back and I saw this head sticking out from behind a tree, looking at me, and it just shocked me to my core. I mean, I had my phone was in my hand, and the thought never even crossed my mind to use it. Um, I was just shocked, and I knew what I was looking at, and the only thing that I could think was to get Coleman's attention and to have him come over, and we kind of pretended, I feigned like, we were having a conversation, and I had him look over my shoulder at it, and he saw it too, but I actually saw the thing move, and he just saw it there, and then he watched it for a while, and it just wasn't moving, and then we tried to change positions. I gotta admit, I wanted to look at it again, and so I ended up turning, and I guess it just vanished. But we went back over there the next day, and my buddy Jeff Hatfield went over there, and he stood over there by that tree, and he's pushing 6 foot, and we could barely see his head. So um, whatever it was at least 8 foot tall.
wow.
It was a big one, yeah, but
And people have reported bigger ones than that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, we did find footprints from that creature. Well, let me rephrase that. Coleman found a footprint, and we went over and we was looking at it. It was raining on us, so we didn't try to cast it. But it was, if I remember right, I'm having a little trouble remembering because we do find a lot of tracks. I think that one was either 15 or 17 inches long, and
Wow.
the width was proportional for a Sasquatch. So, but we did have some really good video footage of that footprint. So it's in
Okay.
one of my YouTube videos.
Let me go to. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to bring up. Let's see. Which one should I do first? I don't know why they make these things so small when I add them to the library, but they do. Let's start with this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are some footprints that Eric found. The guy in the chats over there. He found those at this undisclosed location. There was a bunch of them. I would say there was at least somewhere between 20 and 30 prints over there.
Wow.
And it looked like there was two separate individuals. And it looked like they were, yeah. Um, he thinks he's funny, but yes, we ended up, we just picked five and we cast them. Those are the four that I took home with me. And we just kind of casted them when we found them. I'm going to guess they were somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks old.
Okay.
We do have some really good video footage. If you want to go check out the YouTube video, um, it's a pretty decent video.
I will.
We found some. We found this whole trackway of footprints, and we also had something push over a tree while we were out looking at this swampy, marshy area.
Oh,
And that was the first one for me. And you could tell it was a big tree, and it was alive. And Eric and I are pretty excited about going back to that area, maybe later on after everything has died a little bit,
mhm.
and looking for this tree that got pushed over, because we know roughly where it was.
Right.
We just couldn't see it, but it was shockingly loud. So that was really exciting. That kind of got my heart pumping, and I was
I bet.
shocked. We actually caught the audio from that tree falling, being pushed over on film. So
Mm. Okay. Uh,
it's a baby squatch.
baby squatch. There you go. What is that? About 7 inches?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you actually take the tape, I don't know if I sent you the other tape where it's measuring crossways. That
Uh,
footprint is proportional to being about half as wide as it is long. And we found
wow.
that Eric and Coleman and I and Jeff Hatfield was there too. We found those out at Canton Lake, and we the first thing I did after that is I came home and my grandkids were there, and I started pulling their shoes off and getting my tape measure out. And sure enough, children's feet, human children's feet, are just as narrow proportionally as an adult human's foot normally is. And so that footprint that I just showed you the pictures of, it is a truly abnormal footprint. It is a lot wider than a normal human footprint. And
Sure.
I was actually surprised that even at that young age, or maybe it's just with that particular individual, I was totally shocked that the proportion thing um, kind of stayed true. So I was pleased with that because it makes it a little bit easier to discern a juvenile human's footprint from juvenile Sasquatch.
Yeah.
So that was kind of exciting. But we found a whole bunch of tracks that weekend, probably over 50. And judging by all the different sizes that we found that day, we estimated there's at least six different individual Sasquatch living out there on the north end of Canton Lake. Yeah, that's Papa, I guess. That one was every bit of 17 inches long.
Wow.
That's one of those truckers' bats that Coleman brought that with him for self defense. I think. I don't know.
Tree knocking.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did knock on a tree with that thing. So, uh,
All
you know,
right.
there's no
Let's
limit to what
see.
we'll do when field researchers get bored.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Let's
Hmm.
take a look at this one here.
Oh man, that was That was an exciting trip. We went on this trip in February, I think. That was at Skytook Lake, and we canoed back into this really remote area at Skytook Lake back in the WMA.
Hmm.
And my brother and I had been out there earlier in the year. I'm going to say probably October or something.
Right.
Might have been the end of September. I remember it was hot as hell. And we kayaked back in there, and we had an encounter with something on the bank. This thing actually growled at us, and it was deep. And I gotta admit, I enjoyed the look on my brother's face when he heard it, because we were basically, our two boats were together, and you just kind of got to understand my brother.
Hmm.
My brother has spent a lot of time in the woods, like me, and it's kind of hard to find anything that surprises him when it comes to wild animals running around in Oklahoma. But when
Right.
that thing growled at us, he turned around and looked at me, and his eyes were like really big around, and he was like, "What the was that?" And I was like, "That's what we're here for."
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
But the look on his face was priceless. And but it ended up, it followed us out. It stayed. We were losing daylight, so we started heading back, and it basically paced us out, followed us along the creek, and you could hear it moving through the brush and everything. So we ended up going back, and we mounted this big 4-day expedition, and we took. It was me and Jeff Hatfield and my brother and the mysterious Mr. X, and there's I can't remember if Micah was on that one or not, but anyway, we went down there. We spent 4 days down there, and we didn't find anything. We didn't find any footprints. We didn't hear any vocalizations. We were looking all over, and we just didn't find anything. And we just ended up having a great long weekend, and we made a whole bunch of food and Dutch ovens and stuff, and we just ate like a bunch of kings. But we were kind of disappointed because we hadn't found any evidence, and so we loaded up and we headed back. And when we got back to the vehicles, when started loading up our canoes and everything, of course the game ranger shows up with a tribal cop, and he comes up, and Mr. X goes up to start talking to him, and they're over there talking, and the game ranger does the standard issue. Well, you boys up here doing a little fishing, and basically what he's doing is a little fishing of his own. He wants to see what he can pin you on.
Right.
And my buddy just flat out said, "No, we're out here looking for Sasquatch." And when when he said that, I about crap. But I mean, just as, and I remember turning around and I looked to see what the look on this guy's face was, and he was just straight faced as all, and he goes, "Well, they're on the other side of the lake this time of year,"
Really.
and I'm just like, "Whoa, did he just say that?" You know, I
You
was
would. Yeah.
so
You would think he would have said there ain't none of them here.
you would have thought, huh?
Yeah.
And the tribal cop was standing there, and he was just very matter of fact too. I mean, there was no he would. I mean, they couldn't have had it planned. I mean, who would have ever thought that that's what we were doing? Um, it's not like we had Sasquatch stickers all over the back of our cars at that time.
Hmm.
And oh, maybe one. I think I may have had a Bigfoot sticker on the back of my car, but they wouldn't have. You know, but it kind of made sense when you think about it, because these areas that get these public hunting grounds that really get hammered, from October 1st to January 15th, it just kind of makes sense that they might just pack up and go someplace that doesn't have a whole lot of human pressure during that time. And, I mean, maybe they wait till night and they come in and snatch up some gut piles or something. But they just stay out of those areas during the normal time when we're in there. And then the rest of the year, when a lot of these places are pretty much abandoned and they'll literally not see any human traffic for the rest of the year, then they come back and they stay there. So at least that's my theory. But
Right.
with a little help from a game ranger that may or may not have been pulling my leg, I don't know. But
All right, I'm going to show these three photos because I think, yeah, they're related. And then I have another question for you.
okay.
Let's see. Well, not that one. That's
Oh, that's Micah Doan.
okay.
That's us doing aerial Sasquatch reconnaissance from a plane.
From a plane. Okay,
Oh,
cool.
yeah, he's dangerous. He'll get you about 30 foot off the ground.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the first of three.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these three photos were taken on my cousin's trail camera. My cousin had no idea what they were, and he was very dumbfounded by it. And he just he ended up he sent them to my brother, and he said, "Hey, you know what the hell this is?" And that was kind of where they came from. He had this trail camera set up um, away from his deer feeder,
Okay.
and he had it mounted on a T post that he had stuck in the ground. And I made the mistake, I guess, of showing those pictures one time on I think it was Bettina Moss's um, YouTube show, and it's, to this day I still kind of regret it. I don't know. I'm not scared of them. They weren't my photos. I didn't. They're real. But what are they? Whatever it is roughly 5 foot tall,
Mm-hmm.
and the curly hair thing threw me for a long time.
Okay.
And a lot of people were trying to say it was a squirrel or it was this or it was that. But I was actually talking to Vic Cundiff one time about it
Mm-hmm.
from Dogman Encounters Radio. And I asked him, I said, have you ever heard of a curly haired dogman? Because that one picture, you can see that the hair is actually very curly. And it's got a poodle look to it or something. But Vic confirmed that people report curly haired dogmen every so often, that you will see them. And so whatever that thing is, it's pretty large, pretty large. I mean, it's like, I'm guessing I'm not a forensic photologist or whatever, but that thing is pretty tall.
Right.
And I can't tell you if it's standing up on its hind legs or if it's on all fours, but
Mm-hmm.
I did see the camera, and the camera was, like right here on me.
Right.
And I'm 6'1". So whatever that was, it was a pretty decent sized animal. And that one picture, it looks like it's actually turned around facing the camera, and you can almost see the eyes. And that it's the one where it's probably the lowest, and you can just see the ears really sticking up. No, not that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's got to be that one.
Yes. And if you look at the very bottom, it's like you can almost see the eyes. And in that photo, it does look very canine-ish,
Right.
but I think in that picture, it has spun around and it is looking at the camera, almost like it didn't realize what it was at first.
Right.
And I don't know if the picture in the middle was a action photo of it beginning to turn or what. Man, I don't have all the answers. But Bettina brought up a good point, and I had never really thought about it. I just kind of figured, it might be a dog man. Who knows? And that was the end of it. Because I'm smart enough to know that pictures that are never going to prove anything. Even before AI, pictures never proved a damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And all they end up doing is getting big old bite hunks taken out of your butt. And you know, it ends up not being fun. But Bettina brought up a good point. She says if that is a dog man, those 3 photos are all in focus. And they could literally be the only photos of a dog man that are in focus. All the rest of them are blurry.
Yeah.
Whatever that's worth.
All right. Brian, we're gonna take a quick break. No more than 2 minutes. And then we'll be right back and we'll talk some more.
Okay. I'll go hit the head.
All right. This next question is very popular. What do you think a Bigfoot is?
Oh man, you're gonna get me run out of town on a rail, aren't you?
Uh-oh.
Nobody knows, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the evidence is pretty clear that they're not an ape.
Mm-hmm.
And to all the researchers who have dedicated a vast portion of their time and effort into doing research, and they still believe it's an ape. Oh, hey, Sandra. I would say, you know, usually the first thing I ask them is, well, how many years have you been doing field research? And they'll say, oh, 20 years, whatever. Yeah, I'm like, well, how does it feel being outsmarted by a dumb ape for 20 years? And I think that's really what it boils down to. If it was just a dumb ape, we would have caught up with it. There's so much more. It demonstrates on a regular basis it's so much more. And my professional opinion, professional, I think it's some type of relic hominoid. I think it's been here a long time. I think there's a breeding population. and I think they don't want to have anything to do with us. Probably the fact that they don't want to have anything to do with us is another sign of intelligence. I mean, hell, we kill each other all the time. So, um, everything. I guess it depends on what colored glasses you're looking at it through. But the way I see it, almost everything that they do and that they demonstrate that they do, it if you look deep enough, there's intelligence there. I mean, sure they throw rocks, sure they break branches, you know, but
Mhm.
you know, maybe they've just chosen a way of nature, and that's good enough for them. Maybe they don't need anything else, you know. And I've got a long, theory on why they evolved differently than us. But you guys probably don't want to hear that. I mean, it's kind of one of those hypothetical things, and everybody's got their opinions on these things. But yeah, I think they're a relic hominoid, borderline human. I think um, that's why Native American legends say that um, you know they can interbreed. Um, Sensitive subject, but it's proven. And yeah, Henry, you're right. That's what humans do. We seek out new life forms and we kill them. So yeah, but yeah, we're not exactly good for nature. So, but yeah, I think they're just. I think the fact that they don't want to have anything to do with this shows that they're intelligent. So, and you can't blame them.
What about uh, a breakthrough? Do you think one will ever be captured, or
Well, I think, to be honest, I think there probably have been a few captured. There's probably been several
Mhm.
killed. I think that the government intervenes. I think they come swooping in, and they threaten people, eyewitnesses, and stuff with everything.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the reasons why you have all these people that come out on their deathbed and they just want to set the story straight about what happened in XYZ story.
Right?
Um, I think that's why you've got a lot of that going on. A lot of these guys that were, you know, uh, eyewitnesses or victims of encounters back in the 70s and 80s, they're getting older. They're fixing to die. They feel compelled to tell people about what it was that they encountered back in the day. So, um, yeah, I think as long as the government has a vested interest in um, keeping their existence hidden, I don't think that anything's going to happen because our government can control us. I mean, they can. I mean, Dave, they could take you and pin you for anything they wanted to right now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, they can do anything they want. And so to think that they couldn't control a group of eyewitnesses it's foolish. They can control them. But it is what it is on that deal. And I always tell people too, I think that the government hiding it is actually good for the Sasquatch people themselves. I think it's in their best interest because a person is smart, but people are stupid. And you get a whole bunch of people together, and you end up with what's called a mob. And we know what comes out of mobs.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
so I think that the government is actually doing the Sasquatch people a solid by keeping it under wraps. Now, do I think that the federal government's motives are pure and wholesome? No, they have a vested interest in keeping it hush hush too. It
Right.
so happens that their interest and Sasquatch people's interest do align on that one particular topic. So,
Okay, let's see what I have for you. How about, have you read any reports of someone being hurt by a Bigfoot?
there are a lot of reports of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can think of a lot of them, but those reports usually end up being pretty famous.
Right.
And you almost can't help but wonder, how what percentage of those stories are fictitious, and that's the thing that nobody knows. We don't know how many of these stories that we get, these reports that come our way. A certain percentage of those stories are going to be hoaxes or frauds. It's just humans. Humans are humans. Now, I always tell people that I'm not there to, yeah, probably so. Um, but you know, as far as like the actual physical contact,
Uh,
I I can say I would say less than 1 out of 100 reports involves some type of physical contact. Um, and almost I'd be willing to bet you in 90% of all the encounters, if they wanted to have your ass, they could have. So you got to realize that that's the thing. I'm guessing that these people either didn't take a hint or that maybe there was just a bad one. I mean, I'm sure they're like us. They get a bad egg every so often. And sometimes you just run the chance of running into one of those champagne type creatures, as Dave Wilbanks calls them. So,
right. Okay. Now I've heard. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going off track here. Okay. This is in reference to Dogman.
hmm
I've heard Vic kind of speak about how if a dog man wanted to attack you, it very well could have.
hmm
Um, when he speaks of the numbers, he said the numbers are greater uh, of people that have reported a sighting of a dog man and didn't get attacked. Um, I haven't really taken the time to read. I've only read a few, but share. Can you share with us an attack that took place, if you know of any, and how tragic it was?
Well, stories of dogmen actually physically attacking people are very rare in
Right.
comparison. They're just like Sasquatch. They're extremely remote. Although it seems like there's less bit dogman encounters documented than there are Sasquatch, and I do think that kind of tells us that their population is probably lower than the Sasquatches, but that's just a guess. Now, as far as them attacking, of course, there's the most famous situation, the LBL encounters, where that whole family was murdered in 1982, and there was a government cover up involved in that. Um, I about imagine that probably happened. And it doesn't really matter what version of the story you hear. Um, the people or there were, there was a dead dog man involved at the end of them, and so when there's a body there, the government is going to step in. But yeah, as far as like accounts, I personally do not have any, and I know I've got like 40 dogman encounters documented already. I don't, I can't think of a single one of my own personal case files that involve them actually laying hands or claw on someone. Um, Not at all. Not at all. Now they do have a bad habit of stepping out and showing themselves, and and it seems like they're trying to scare people, which has led to a lot of people into thinking that they live off of. Hold on. Yeah, that he may have a point. Some animals, when they get old and start getting feeble, they have to start preying on us, or at least that's the general consensus. So that could be a factor too. I don't know, um, but they're rare, and they're very, very rare when you have somebody that's actually been attacked. And now, of course, there's always the thing is like, well, if they got attacked and killed, you'd never, you would probably never hear about it or whatnot.
Right.
And that's one of the things I think that makes the LBL case such a unusual situation is that there was 4 bodies left for the police and the rangers to find, but that's partially because the creature died in the process. So according to the story, I guess it took a couple of shotgun rounds and it probably bled out. So
Okay.
anyway,
Here's a excuse me. Here's an interesting question. I read a report about a young boy that had came up missing from out of his backyard, and behind his backyard was the wood lines that went on for many, many acres. And this young boy come up missing, and I think he was gone for 3 or 4 days before they found him. Now, when they questioned him, um, he had survived through rain, coldness, all that stuff. And when they questioned him and asked him, uh, "Where have you been?" he said, "A bear took care of me." Do you remember that?
yeah, I looked into that.
Okay. What's
I
your
was well. I think it's exactly what it sounds like.
okay?
There was a disinformation um, plot that was thrown against those people. If you, the more you look into that, the more you'll realize that there was people coming out. They were saying that there was a guy that lived next door that had a learning disability that basically kidnapped the boy for 3 days. There's another story out there that his mom was on meth and all this other stuff. And
Wow, I didn't read all that.
oh gosh, well, but see, you gotta see through all that stuff. That's the first thing that happens when something real happens, and when it's big time. When
Right.
something big happens, there, especially when it happens now, there is this disinformation thing that happens, and people immediately swoop in and they start trying to discredit everybody that was involved in the situation, just so that people will just say, "Oh, just a bunch of tweakers," and they'll just move on. Because our attention spans what 3 minutes and 2 seconds now, and dropping. So it doesn't take much. All you got to do when you have a situation like that is just throw some poo poo into the mix, and nobody wants to touch it anymore, and everybody just moves on, and there's nothing to see here. And that's usually what they do. But I I personally, I think what the boy said happened, and I think the fact that he survived the whole ordeal um, is a testimony to the fact that there was something else had intervened. And but yeah, I think he said it was a bear man. Is what I don't remember the exact quote of what he said it was. He either said it was a bear or a bear man.
Okay.
And yeah, that was a pretty amazing story. I think that was a Sasquatch. And everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Right.
Maybe I'm just wanting to believe in it. I mean, it's impossible. No one can approach a story like that without a little bit of bias. I mean, everybody has bias on just about everything out there. And, my bias, I want it to be a Sasquatch, but why can't people just believe the kid?
Yeah.
I mean, what would the kid call it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know why people just can't believe people when they say, well, this is what happened. Well, you must have been doing hallucinogenic mushrooms or whatever. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just,
Right.
it's like the first thing they ask, well, what were you drinking? And for the record, man, I drank a lot in my day. And I even smoked some of that old school weed back whenever I was a young buck. And it never made me hallucinate and see things that weren't there. And I don't see. I mean, maybe this new stuff that they're growing nowadays will make you hallucinate and see stuff, but in my experience, just because you were smoking weed or just because you were drinking doesn't make you see Bigfoot or Dogman or anything else. So anyway, although it would explain the blurry pictures if maybe a drunk guy was taken. Wait, no, they would still be clear. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. One of my nephews. Yeah. That stuff they have out there today. I'm like, I've said to him several times. I'm like, I smoked it in the '70s
Hmm.
and early '80s.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to give it up today after doing it for so long? And it seems like for most today, it's hard to give up.
Yeah. Oh, it's
You
not
know, when
addictive.
when I was done, I was done. I had my fun. You know.
Oh, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure it probably has helped a few people,
Yeah.
but we're not going to solve the world's problems by talking about that here. All we're
Right.
going to end up doing is getting in trouble.
There you go.
I just
Click.
think it's funny. I think it's a double standard though, because like nowadays it's legal to do it, and for the first time, throw a huge jagged rock at him. He missed his head by inches. Broke the camera. Wow. Wow. That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd like to see pictures of that camera. Or the well, was it? That's my. What I mean is what was the camera running? That would be. But
Yeah. Really.
but yeah, it always just the stuff cracks me up, and all I know is that we don't personally do any type of illicit drugs whenever we're out doing research.
Right.
We don't drink. Just primarily, regardless of what you think of it. I mean, if you want to do that kind of stuff, that's fine. But I think that if we did have alcohol out with us when we're doing field research or marijuana or any type of other drugs, it would basically discredit any evidence we found whatsoever. I mean, we could haul in a dead Sasquatch in the back of a pickup truck, and if they found out that we'd smoked a joint, they'd say it was fake. I mean,
I
that's
I'll tell you, I've looked at some of the fake stuff that's out there today. It's oh my god.
yeah, like the Bigfoot in the freezer. That's a good one. I like
Yeah.
that one.
And the guy that has a head.
That doesn't even look real.
Really?
And like every 3 years, it pops back up again. Here it goes again. Everybody's
Yeah.
freaking out about it.
Yeah. Let's
Oh
see.
gosh, it's good stuff.
All right. The new stuff is very strong. I've taken 5 bears. They do have a kind of gentle, patient attitude behavior. Okay.
Well, do they make you hallucinate? I mean, that's what I want to know. That I don't want to know. I mean, I'm over here sticking up for marijuana, but I don't really know anything about the new marijuana. But at the same time, I just me personally, I just don't want to have to listen to people, because I mean, imagine if I did find something kind of amazing evidence, something that was irrefutable, something that was pretty amazing. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to the Oklahoma website and find out if I've got a marijuana card or not. And if I do, they're just going to crucify me online. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
that's how it happens. I mean, I haven't really seen anybody do that yet, but then again, we don't find very many people that come across any really truly amazing evidence yet. Anytime, it's pretty rare. So,
So, what is the one most ultimate place on your bucket list that you want to investigate?
um, that would probably be the LBL or possibly Washington State, up around Mount St. Helens, I think, and maybe Vancouver Island. That's a pretty amazing place, and but yeah, that's a few to name. There's a lot of places. If I had unlimited resources, if I had finding Bigfoot money, yeah, I would fly around and go do this stuff. Maybe I need to buy that lottery ticket and just knock this whole situation out. That would make things a lot easier, and it'd probably make my wife happier. So,
Oh yeah,
winning the lottery would be great. I mean, I would spend all of my. I gotta admit, I would quit my job, and I know my students would probably be mad, but I would literally quit my job and I would go full time, and I would be going to all these different places, and immerse myself in it, and I think that would be pretty awesome. But
now
we'd
how would you do it? Would you do it by tour bus or?
have actually, that's not a bad idea. If you had
Yeah, with a driver,
yeah, you'd
paid driver. Yeah.
I'd have Eric driving me around. He's a professional driver, but yeah, he even looks kind of like a roadie. He's got his head shaved and looks all scary wearing those glasses.
Shamrock,
Hello.
Texas. There you go.
Hey there. And but anyway, that would be a great way to do it. Get on a bus and just start traveling around. Go to all these hot spots. Unlike finding Bigfoot, we would probably have a very minimal camera crew. I guess they had it's no wonder they had so much problems really getting good evidence because they had so many things working against them.
Right.
Um, I would say, have some body cams and, maybe do some hand stuff. And, but, the full blown cameramen walking around the woods and stuff. Yeah, now that is all Eric's idea.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to blame him for the crazy idea. That's actually a really good idea.
Right.
Anytime you do something weird in the woods, it may inspire them to come in closer for a look. Everybody made fun of Bobo and Finding Bigfoot when he broke out the disco ball, but the truth is, doing weird stuff like that and show them something they ain't ever seen before.
Yeah.
It, I mean, you can't just be a normal camper. They see those all the time. Do
Well,
something a
you.
little different.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say I have a journal book with a lot of notes in it, with lots of ideas. So yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just I'll be 60 in July, so I just pray to the good Lord that I get to carry out my
Hmm.
bucket list. So
There you go. Just pick your spots wisely. But yeah, I think that was a really good idea that Eric had, and we joke around about it a lot, but yeah, the majority of them hide from us. Well, probably because they know that we will come in after them. I believe. I mean, we. I, it's kind of like we're kind of. I've heard somebody say one time it's kind of like a rattlesnake. We're a hell of a lot bigger than a rattlesnake, but a rattlesnake is still dangerous, and we're going to avoid it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in Mortal Kombat, we're gonna pick up a stick and we're gonna kill the rattlesnake, right? But there is still a chance that he could bite us, and if he bites us, there's a very good chance that we're gonna die. And I
Mhm.
think it's very similar to that. I think they just know that we're dangerous, and especially in large numbers, and so they just know better. We're a snake to them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I could imagine being in a tent, pulling the zipper down and sticking your head out and looking, and it be standing right there, and then you got to look up and like, can you imagine that?
yeah, that would be pretty frightening. Um, Especially because if it's a zipper, they're going to hear that. They're going to be looking right at you.
Oh yeah. And I have a few of my guests have told me that when they go camping out in the woods, boots on the ground, um, that Sasquatch likes to come out after everybody's, you know, settled in
Hmm.
inside the tent, trying to go to sleep. And yeah, I've heard a lot of reports that they like coming out after you have settled in. And
Yeah,
I've heard all kind of crazy stuff. Yeah.
they did that to us when Eric and Coleman and I went to the Washita National Forest here just a few months back. It wasn't even. I mean, I'd just gone to bed and I was. I think I was just about to fall asleep, and that's when Coleman started texting me. He says, "There is something standing outside my tent," and he started blowing my phone up. But we had just gone to bed. I mean, um, I don't think that it just happened to walk through the area at that particular time that we went to bed. I think it had been sitting there watching us for a while. I don't remember what time we actually went to bed. Maybe Eric does. I could probably tell by if we go back and look at the video, but we hadn't been in bed but maybe 30 minutes or so. Yeah, that's true. Your special howl might have called them in. But we did ban that howl. So it's not allowed anymore for medical purposes. Um, but anyway, we hadn't even been. I don't. There's no way we had been in bed any more than 45 minutes when it came in and approached the camp and started messing with Coleman's chair and standing outside of his tent. And yeah, and then it walked in between Eric and I's vehicle, and that's when it scared the crap out of me when I realized because I was kind of up on my side and I was trying to look at Coleman's tent. And at one point in time, I actually saw something standing over there by his tent. I could see it in the firelight, but then it disappeared. And I was trying to look in that direction, and that's when it came up, and it was right behind us, right behind me.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was. This thing walked right between Eric and I's vehicle. Our vehicles were not even 7 feet apart. This thing was literally standing 2 or 3 foot behind me. And I'm
Mm.
sitting here. Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, are my doors locked? I knew it was right behind me. I could hear it. And I'll be honest with you, I was too scared to turn around and look. And that's the truth. I mean, I'm out there to see it, I'm there to look. But when that thing, I was not expecting it to come up behind me. And when it did, I about shat myself. It was right there, and there was just a pane of glass between me and it. And I think, looking back on it, I think that it did it just to show us that it could. And we got up the next morning. We looked around our camping area. Of course, it was pounded flat. The dirt was compacted, but we did find footprints outside of camp that I'm pretty sure were not there the night before. Because I looked around that area, I didn't see them. I think Coleman was down there walking around. I mean, if Coleman would have seen the footprints, he would have hollered out. We'd have all been over there. If any of us would have found anything resembling a footprint, we would have all been over there looking at it. But the next morning, we saw where this thing had left via its footprints, and that was pretty cool. We got all that on video, and we didn't get any footage of the creature, but I did get a visual of it. It was very dark, and you know how the light from a campfire flickers, and you can't really. Mm-hmm. You could see that there was something standing there. You just couldn't tell what it was, and then it was just gone. And then I realized that's right behind me. I hope it's not hungry. So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just kind of laughing at myself here. I mean, that was definitely the closest I've ever been to one of these creatures, and I was too scared to look. So there you go.
Here's one for you. Years ago, I went to a place in Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore County. It's called Gunpowder River. And so it was me and two other people. We actually went there because someone had given us a report that the place was haunted. Didn't say anything about Bigfoot or, whatever else might be in the area. But we get out there and we get on this trail walking through the woods.
Yeah.
So that we can get to the back where we wanted to be to do some ghost hunting. So the people I was with were walking in front of me, and we were about probably 20, 25 feet apart. And it's pitch dark, and all I had on was a headlamp. And I'm walking, and then all of a sudden, I started hearing snap, snap, heavy walking behind me. And when I would stop, it would stop. So they turned around and they looked back and they said, "What's the matter? Why are you so far back?" I said, "Just go ahead." I said, "But don't get out, get out of my eyesight where I can't see you no more." And they're like, "Okay." So we're walking, and I did this several times. Every time I stopped, the branches stopped being snapped, and hearing it behind me didn't sound like a person walking. And it was, whatever it was something that was very heavy because the ground was like pounded. Okay. All of a sudden, I look up. The people I was with was way ahead, gone. I'm like, oh my God. So I kept on walking, and I tell you what. When I finally caught up to them, I about crapped myself. And then I told them, and they were like, "Let's go back. Let's go back." I said, "Hell no, I don't want to go back." I said, "We'll go back when it's time to leave. Let's go do what we came here to do,
Yeah, exactly.
So on the way out, nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an area that I had researched that had many Bigfoot sightings where people would go night fishing, and they would be sitting on like some sand, and they would be fishing, and all of a sudden from across the other side, big boulders and big rocks were being thrown into the water, and they were like, "Who the hell's doing that?" And in the report, one person was saying that no, that's not a person. there ain't no way a person can throw something that big. Did you see that splash?
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's another place I wanna get back to. Uh,
You're lucky you didn't end up being dinner.
yeah, really. But yeah, whatever it was, them footsteps behind me was not a person because it would have sounded similar to how I was snapping,
Hmm.
branches and leaves and stuff like that. Whatever it was like boom, 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 snap, crunch. So
They were letting you hear it.
I didn't get to see it though.
And it's pretty common. There's a lot of Class B reports out there. Most people don't realize it, but the difference between a Class A and a Class B encounter
Let
is
me.
a Class A, you actually lay your eyes on the creature.
This is
And
the this is
there's,
the closest I've ever been to one that I've seen.
hey,
That's
yeah,
it.
one of my students bought me one of those.
Oh yeah, I got the white one too, the abominable snowman.
Yeah.
Something interesting. I get my granddaughter Monday through Friday. She comes over and I have her all day until mom and dad gets off of work. And so many times during the week she will make me laugh. She'll go, "Be quiet, mom. Pop's talking Bigfoot." Stuff like that. And she can't leave my toy alone. So I
Yeah.
told her I'll get you a couple of them.
Oh, yeah. They
Uh,
make some really cute stuffed Bigfoot dolls that I've been eyeballing getting the grandkids for Christmas. I'm sure
yeah,
that'll make my daughter a little crazy.
I got a collection going. So uh,
Bigfoot dolls for all the grandkids for Christmas.
here's
I'll be
one.
popular.
Let's throw that one up there.
Yeah, that concerns me too. I am kind of fortunate. I live in town, but I do live on the outskirts of town.
Hmm.
So it is possible. And I've heard those stories. And I'm not exactly sure how they pull that off when you get in a vehicle and drive away. That's another one of those things that's kind of creepy that it makes people think they're either of some kind of higher intelligence or paranormal.
Yeah.
Is when they do follow you home. I mean, knock on wood, it hasn't happened to me yet, and I hope it don't. Um, because I don't want them eating my Pomeranians.
My daughter-in-law is looking for a house, and she wants some property. Um, she likes horses, but
Mm.
I said, "Well, I like Bigfoot." I said, "So why don't you look for something with a wood line and some acres that go on for a good distance?"
Hmm.
And she goes, "Man, you think Bigfoot's everywhere?" I'm like,
It
don't hurt the
is.
look. I've gotten reports where a guy came out of a bar um, to throw some trash in the dumpster,
Mm.
and a Bigfoot was standing there going through the dumpster
Huh.
looking for something to eat. And this
Well,
was in an area. It's called Route 7 in Baltimore County, um, but there's not too much commercial in the area as far as like stores, grocery stores, and stuff like that. Everything is spaced out, so it's pretty much a lot of woods on the left, a lot of woods on the right before you get to something. So,
all right.
and yeah,
Well, there's a lot of dumpster reports out there. I interviewed a lady from Tonkawa a couple of years ago, and she was of the opinion that they even knew when trash day was, and they would come the night before. And that's an. I mean, when they know what day the trash man's coming, um, that's uh, that's a little bit smarter than an ape.
you did get my text, right?
Uh-uh.
The two dates that you asked me to look up that I might want to look up the night before trash.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, you did look
Yeah.
that up.
Yep. Because
Interesting.
back then, I'm not going to go into details, but when I first moved here, my trash day was on a different day. I would always put it out on a Monday, and it would go on a Tuesday. Now it goes on a Wednesday. So yeah. Let's see here. As you know, Brian, my
Yeah.
first sighting was at home.
If you guys want to hear Harold's report about his encounter, I did a YouTube video. Well, I didn't do it. Actually, one of my investigators, Jeff Hatfield, did it. And
Okay.
it's up there. It's actually called Harold's Encounter, and you guys can go check that out.
I
That
will.
is an unusual encounter. That is an unusual encounter. It's probably one of the rarest encounters that I've ever documented. So, yeah, you guys have to go check that one out. That's a horse of a different color. And I
Yeah.
did get my first skinwalker report today.
Really?
Yeah, that was interesting. I've been doing this for several years now. It was the first time I've had things reported as skinwalkers that just turned out to be, either a dogman or a Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
But this one actually apparently transformed shape. So that was a pretty interesting one. I gotta do well, I still need to talk to the actual eyewitness, but I
Mm-hmm.
got contacted by the eyewitnesses, one of his best friends, and they're going to put me in touch with them so I can get the story straight from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
And him and his wife both saw it. And there was two eyewitnesses for this. And apparently it was in the middle of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just because you live in town doesn't mean you're really safe.
Yeah, I haven't. I've experienced things with Bigfoot, but haven't seen one. And you know what? I've seen many of UFOs over the years.
Mm,
And here in Doylestown, where I live in Bucks County, PA, it's starting to become saturated with UFO reports.
mm.
If you get the chance, look up Eric Mentel Investigates. He's been doing some documentaries, and he's released a couple shows that he's done.
How do you
But
spell his last name?
Mintel.
Is that ERIC or?
Yeah, ERIC.
Okay.
Eric Mintel Investigates on YouTube. Yeah, very interesting gentleman. Uh, he's a musician. Uh, yeah, there's been like all the town papers that come out, like Plumstead, Dublin, Doylestown,
Mm-hmm.
all throughout Bucks County. Sometimes three or four sightings in one day. And there was
Wow.
a nurse that had, I believe, she met her husband for lunch at the hospital, and previously she had a UFO sighting when she went out on a smoke break, and then the two of them together had a different sighting away from the hospital. It's just
Gee.
like they're like everywhere. My nephew was down a few months ago, and he said, "Uncle Dave," he said, "come here." I said, "Not if you're smoking that funny stuff. I'm not." He says, "No, look up in the sky." So I come out and I looked up, and I saw this bright light, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, that can't be a drone." It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Um, Most people are not allowed to fly drones unless they have a special license, and they can only go, I believe, 400 feet in the air. This
I
was
don't know.
what this was way up there,
Yeah.
and I just watched it for a few minutes, and then it went across the sky, sat still, came back, went up, went
Mhm.
down. I'm like, man, I want to say it's a drone, but it's too high. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, these blinking lights started going around it, and it just vanished.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's enough for me. I'm going in the house.
Ever since the
So,
Navy came out and started saying that they'd releasing these videos, and a lot more people are talking about this stuff a lot more openly, and now there's people that are saying that. And I went to that site whenever that first happened, and I was watching those videos from the Department of the Navy when they released those, and now they're saying that those videos were all hoax, that it wasn't even the Department of the Navy. And I'm like, okay, so who's the guy that did it? Is he in jail, or where's this hoaxer? I mean, surely they're pressing charges on him. If they're imitating or impersonating the Department of the Navy, you would think that this would be a very big thing, that they would want to prosecute this person's ass pretty harshly. Oh yeah, and it's just more disinformation to keep you confused and not knowing what's going on. I will say this much though for the UFOs. I have very little experience with it,
mhm,
but we were out at Canton Lake. Now it was this winter. Coleman and Eric and I think Jeff Hatfield was with us too. Saw my first UFO I'd ever seen in my life. I'd never seen anything like that before, but it's kind of like you said. It was kind of moving like a drone, but too fast for a drone and too high up. It didn't
right,
have the flashing lights. It was just one white light. I've actually got some video footage of it that we threw in the video. It's in there, but I mean, it's just like any other, YouTube video of a UFO. I mean, it's just a light moving around up in the sky.
right,
Um, it leaves a lot to be desired. And but what does it prove? Like, I don't know. What is the Patterson Gimlin footage proven? Apparently nothing.
right.
So, mm,
Now, a lot of people have followed reports, and a lot of people have brought up the discussion that they think that Bigfoot is somehow related to UFOs, aliens.
well, you know, a lot of people say that, but let me throw this out there, and I'm probably going to make some people mad when I say this, and it's, you know,
I
I
do all the time.
I'm just going to say I'm an evidence-based investigator. I go with the evidence, okay, and I've got, you know, 300 rough case files that I've got. I'm behind on them. I need to get them documented some more. But in none of those case files did the people report that there was UFOs or floating lights or anything. Now, first of all, just let me say this: I'm not calling anybody a liar. I'm just saying, based on the evidence that I've accumulated, I have not ever seen a I've never documented anything like that. Now I have documented weird lights in the sky, but they were not accompanied by Bigfoots or aliens or anything like that. So, from what I've seen, based on the evidence that I've acquired in Oklahoma and southern Kansas, I can't say that there's any kind of relationship there, and I cannot help but wonder uh, how much of how much fiction has played a part in that. And all I'm going to say is this: this is what I warn people. If you dabble in fiction, if you
Mhm.
listen to fiction, there's a lot of really talented guys out there like Dixie Cryptid, which then that guy is a great storyteller. He's a natural born orator, but he dabbles in fiction and like Dark Waters. Everybody loves Dark Waters, and that guy can tell a story. And I'm, but at the same time, he dabbles in fiction. So if you
Okay.
put fiction in your head, 3 years from now, will you remember that story is not real? Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. And so I don't know. Um, that's one of the reasons why I don't allow myself to listen to any type of fiction anymore. When it comes to this kind of stuff, I only want to
Mhm.
hear the stuff that people will testify that it's true,
Right.
because where maybe that's where all that stuff comes from. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
I'm just just one guy out here, and I going off of what I've seen. So I'm not calling anybody a liar, but I am concerned that maybe it's maybe Hollywood has played a factor in that. Maybe
Yeah.
too many sci-fi books coming out. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm just saying I've never seen, when you put all the stories together and you compile the evidence, clear patterns start to evolve out of that. And not one of them have ever been, alien and Bigfoot related. I think another thing that everybody um, is crazy about is this whole WWF match between Bigfoot and Dogman that everybody goes crazy about. They want to see that, but to the best of my
Right.
knowledge, there's not a there's not a single report of a dog man fighting a Bigfoot that's credible. And
Right.
and so and I think it's just like most big predators, they're going to stay away from each other. You know, and but people are constantly talking about it like it's something that really goes on, and people are constantly glamorizing it and doing AI stuff for it and doing artwork depicting them fighting and stuff. And you've got to be careful that you don't pollute your brain with fiction, because just remember, 3 5 years down the road, you'll remember the story, but you won't remember whether it was fiction or nonfiction. So
Okay.
be careful.
My next question is similar to this question here. Orbs, maybe, but not UFOs directly, in my opinion. My question was going to be, when you're out investigating Sasquatch, have you ever seen any balls of light orbs in the woods?
Not that I can remember. Um, and I do not believe that the orbs that are reported are UFOs either. I think Harold's right about that. Um, the A lot of the Native American people in our area, they'll say that the orbs are either Sasquatch or little people, one of the two, depending on how high off the ground they're located. But the orbs are very mysterious, and Oklahoma has one of the most well documented orb cases that has been anywhere in the country. We've got this thing that we call the spook light up in northeastern Oklahoma that kind of goes up into Arkansas,
Hmm.
and it's documented clear back before statehood. People were riding horses out there to watch this thing, and it goes way back. It's documented well over 100 years ago that the Oklahoma spook light was a thing. They've actually had several different names for it, and it's even seen to this day. Although everybody agrees that the frequency of the sightings are becoming less and less over a period of time. They say that in the 1950s it was there every night.
Hmm.
And the federal government, the Army Corps of Engineers, actually sent a group of scientists out to try to figure out what it was, and they came up empty-handed. They were just like, "We have no idea what this is." So,
Wow.
yeah, it's called the. Some people call it the Hornet Spook Light. Some people call it the Oklahoma Spook Light. If you're interested, you can Google it. Um, I've wanted to go up there and do it. and check it out. But the truth is, they say that it only appears like once every 2 weeks or so now, and
Uh-huh.
so you could end up driving up there and for nothing. So
Right.
if there's anybody up in the northeastern corner of the state that has a nice place that I can do some Bigfoot research and check out the spook light at the same time, uh, yeah, hit me up. I'm down. I've always wanted to see that. I heard about that thing when I was in college, and I've always wanted to go up there and check that out. But I've just always been real hesitant because it's such an investment to drive all the way up there just to see nothing.
Right. You know, years ago, I used to be a host for paranormal investigations at a mansion. It was called the Ramblewood Mansion. And, when groups would come in and do an overnight investigation, I would pretty much, uh, stay to myself in a room uh, that was part of the kitchen as well. Now, one night, I got hungry and I said, I need something to eat. I'm diabetic, so and
Mhm.
sometimes I just got to eat at the right time, right after taking medicine. But I'm not a big fan of orbs. I do believe some of them may be an orb, but I reached for this, and this idea popped up in my head, and I took a black sharpie and I wrote on this. Let's see, where's it at? There it is. Can you see that?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
took a pin and I stuck it on the wall. Would you believe the first person that walked into my room to get some coffee, boom, spotted it on the wall? I said, unreal. I just like put it up on the wall, put a pin in it, and the first person that come walking in that door to get some coffee was like, "Oh, wow!" I'm like, "Orbs must be a really big hit," you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
don't have a tremendous amount of reports of them here
mhm,
in Oklahoma. I think if I had to speculate, I would say that they are more prevalent in other areas of the country than they are here, but there are
right,
still orbs reported here.
uh-huh.
One thing I do know is that the indigenous people in this area, they'll tell you if you get a chance to touch one, do not do it because
Well, yeah,
well, they say you can lose your memory, it can drive you insane. There's all kinds of bad things that can happen. You're not supposed to touch them.
I never made fun of them, but just that little bit of humor that I did that
Mhm.
one night. Now, I investigated the Ramblewood Mansion from 2007, and I have had control of it until 2016. And I saw one orb, and that was not through a lens with my eyes, but it
Yeah.
was blue, and it was about the size, almost the size of a softball in the
Mm.
mansion. And that was not with a camera or taking a picture or anything like that, just with my eyes. So, I can't, you know, from that moment on, um, can't rule an orb out. I mean, it had to be something.
Mhm.
Wasn't
I've
me.
known people that have seen them, and
Uh-huh.
a couple of the people that like for instance, I was talking to David Wilbanks here recently, and I had talked to him previously before about it, and he was pretty skeptical of the whole thing. And then when we went down to go to the Hanabi conference, and he was a guest speaker at that, they put him in a cabin out in the woods with they rented like one of those big cabins, and they put some of the guest speakers up in that cabin,
Uh-huh.
and they had orbs floating around in the tree line there at the cabin. And David was pretty shocked. He'd never seen one of those before, and he was, all of the years he's older than I am, I think, and he was. he's been looking for Bigfoot for 30 years or more, and he'd never seen one. Then all of a sudden one night, he saw several of them out there floating around in the woods.
Yeah.
And I was I was rib poking him a little bit and giving him a little bit of hell. I sent him a text message. I was like, "Welcome to the woo," It was so funny because David is those of you around from Oklahoma, David Wilbanks is probably one of the most straight-laced people you'll ever meet in your life. And it's just kind of funny that it would happen to him.
Wow. All right, we're coming up on the 9 o'clock hour. So, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
Well, I would say the hub of all of my communications and stuff is my Facebook page, Red Dirt Cryptid Investigations. Yeah, that's our symbol. You can find us pretty easily on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel, which is where we dump all of our investigation videos, and you'll have to forgive my YouTube shorts. Those things are a pain in the butt. But we're also on TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn. But if you want to get a hold of me and if you want to communicate with me, the fastest way to do it is to go find Red Dirt Cryptid Investigations, find me, send me a message on Facebook Messenger. That'd be the fastest, most efficient way to get a hold of me. So, and I usually respond to folks, and I like to talk in case you ain't figured that out yet. So, yeah. And if you have an encounter or a story that you want to put out there, you can always remain anonymous. I have absolutely no problem keeping your name and or your private property location completely anonymous and keeping it to myself. So reach out to us, tell us what you know so we can share it. So,
well, Brian, you've been a wonderful guest tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being on. And I want to thank your listeners for joining in. And
there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Pretty good bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just come on, work.
Technology is your friend.
What's that?
Technology is your friend.
Yeah, I'll tell you. All right. So Brian, you have a good night and stay in touch with me. I did give you you do have my phone number.
Yeah.
I'll send you my address, and you can send me yours as well. And because I like to follow up with a thank you in the mail as well. So you be safe, and be safe out there when you're investigating out there in the woods. And Brian, thanks again, and you have a good night.
Thanks for having me on, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Have a good one.
From the Northwest to the Everglades, from the Southwest up to Maine. Even though he's seldom seen, everybody knows his name. Through the forests and the backwoods, folks are looking night and day, hoping for a chance to see old Bigfoot USA. Well, he's big, bad, and hairy, hangs out in the woods. No doubt he'd be scary in any neighborhood. He's the best there is at staying hid, but we're gonna find him anyway. Maybe then we can document old Bigfoot USA. He And if that ain't evidence, how about hair? Banging on trees and midnight screams don't sound like no bear. Got an appetite, keeps him up all night, so he likes to chill all day. But he'll be around when the sun goes down. He's Bigfoot USA. Ain't no man ever been that fast. No man will ever be that strong. Ain't no way you're gonna whip his, so you might as well get along. He's got more names than anyone in any record book, they say. Right or wrong, they all belong to old Bigfoot USA. They call him Bigfoot, wild man, Sasquatch, stick man, cattle critter, woolly booger, mossy man, and flint man. Brush ape, skunk ape, night ape, swamp ape, grass man, wood man, gray man, and hairy man. Dog man, otter man, lizard man, raggedy man, wendigo, Seattle, Sonoqua, bush man. Wood devil, mountain devil, goat man, stone man, forest devil, big man, timber giant, brush man, ice giant, devil, monkey, boogie man, and cave monster, yellow top, skookum, and nook nook. Swamp monster, night screamer, evil seeker, catamount, Fort Worth monster, Minnesota Iceman. Stone coat, missing link, ape man, jar man, big figure, stone giant, Missouri monster, elk monster, yay ho, Honey Island swamp monster, no head, no neck, tall man, boggy mountain. Night people, stick, Indian, hairy, savage, owl woman, gamekeeper, sweater cat, bad smelling tree, hill monkey.